It's going to take, more than us. We all got to look at ourselves. I got to be better and I will be better. That's what I'm focused on. Um, you know, all of us, we got to, come back and find ways to just keep improving and, help the team. You can't win alone. I can't win alone. I can't. Me and James, we just can't win alone. That's why basketball is played 5-on-5. So, we just need everybody to just, try to keep finding ways to get better, and we'll be fine.
After all that, they took him off the court to put him even closer to the locker room. So I was like, all right.
You didn't have much of a chance to be great in that last game based on shot attempts. How did you find your shots in this game?
Go get them. Let's go get them. Good practice. Just go get them. I really don't know other way to explain it. Just
your motor.
Man, I don't know what that is, man. Motor, come on, bro. I play both ends of the floor. My name is Dominating. I anchor the Phoenix Suns on both ends of the floor. Motor, really? You don't talk about a motor, man? Nope. I run on a Tesla battery. Full of charge.
3 centers, all number 1 picks, all at one point thought of as, the franchise player for their organization. And now, as crazy as it sounds, all 3 could be moved, right? First, let me shout out today's sponsor, So Rare NBA, the online trading card game, fantasy basketball, prizes, private leagues. You can play against me. Now, I came in 3rd last week. I'm slowly climbing up. Shout out to Mr. Scoot for a very close win there. 1 point. Maxey, Embiid failed my guy. But I'm very optimistic this week here. If you look at my conference finals lineup, Tatum, Butler, Reeves, Max Strus quietly has become a killer out there, right? He can give you 5 or 6 threes. Spo's giving him heavy minutes. I like that play. My 5th spot, Jeff Green, look, he's a vet. They're going to lean on him. I don't know if he's going to fill the stat sheet up, but I think he's going to give me plenty of opportunity to finally get a win in my league. Now, it's not too late to join my league. The link's in the description, Athletic Alchemy. Get going now. I know that the season's winding down, but get a feel for it because next year, as the league grows, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. That's So Rare NBA. The link is in the description. Let's start maybe with the biggest name and the least likely in Joel Embiid now. Those comments, I tried to add in the context of the beginning of that comment. He said he's got to get better, right? And then added that him and James can't do it alone. And those that are trying to shoot him bail about that and saying, oh, he said he's got to get better. If you've listened to Joel in the past, this has been an alarming trend with him where he kind of just shifts the blame and makes excuses, right? But he is the reigning MVP, and it seems highly unlikely that he would get moved, but I wouldn't say it's impossible when you look at the Sixers and the continuing coming up short in the playoffs. And something that I've noticed with Embiid over the years is he's not clutch, right? I'm not a Sixers fan. I don't really feel a type of way, but when I watch the Sixers in, 2 minutes and under tight game situations, I don't like what I see from Embiid. And I think that he kind of suffers from, too many choices, right? His game is so diverse. He doesn't truly have a go-to move late in games. Should I face up? Should I spin move? Should I hit the little fadeaway? Should I go to the basket, right? He doesn't quite know what he wants to do. And you see him kind of hot potato the ball in late game situations. So that's one thing that I don't know if he'll ever get over that. You look at someone like Jason Tatum, who I don't believe he's, despite the 51 points and showing up in that game 7, I don't trust him with the ball late either. But my point is Tatum growing out of that? Is he kind of figuring it out? It seemed like, he might have had a breakthrough in that game 7 as far as actually using his body to get good shots in the paint, right? That's what I've seen with Tatum, but I digress because this is about Joel Embiid and Warrior fans. Again, it doesn't seem likely, but at this point, I think anything is possible this offseason. There are so many teams in flux where they're just not happy where they're at, but their windows aren't that large. And so I think we're going to see a lot of movement now. What does Embiid bring to you? He is a dominant hub, right? And what I mean by that is on a nightly basis through the 82-game season, most teams just simply can't match up with him. They don't have an answer. And so you can run your offense through him, and he's going to force double teams, and he's going to attract as much attention outside of Steph Curry as anybody in the league, right? You have a mismatch every night. The dominant hub, rim protection and size and his presence. Now, what I've kind of noticed is that he's kind of living off reputation defensively. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know he had averaged 3 blocks a game in the playoffs. He can go get the shots, and it's his intimidation factor. But I think he's relying on that a little bit too much, and perhaps that's his conditioning and his health, right? But if you noticed, when guys try him, I think they have more success than you would imagine because, again, he's kind of just using his threat rather than actually being active and truly protecting the rim. And you saw him kind of get exposed in pick and roll coverage like every other center does in these playoffs. But I think the biggest concern, if you were to trade for a Joel Embiid, is durability, right? It starts and stops with that. And that is probably his most legitimate excuse when it comes to these playoff failures. But as far as, what would that look like for a Warriors deal? Listen, he's the MVP. He's on a supermax. It would gut all the young players. It would be Poole. And I'll leave the trades up to you. There's not a whole lot of ways that you could make this happen. It'd be the kitchen sink with the young guys, including Jordan Poole. The other thing that I would have to bring up when you talk about bringing in Embiid, he is an alpha, right? And he is going to, some teams need that and they want that, right? But more than likely, if a team were to be trading for Embiid, they already have probably an alpha and some other pieces that they're bringing him in to pair with, right? And so you have to consider his personality. He's a big, loud, kind of goofy personality, right? That may not mesh with every type of player. For instance, a Dame Lillard. They've been, fans have been fantasizing about pairing those two together for years. You saw Dame take a shot at him in those comments. Right? So you have to consider how big his personality is to go along with his durability. And then you do have to change the way you're going to play fundamentally, right? Because he's not going to play fast and get up and down the court. That said, he is obviously the most talented of these 3 big men. Karl Anthony Towns. Let's talk about him next. And I'm making fun of him with the voice thing as if that's a true... what I'm hinting at is again, personality. When you're dealing with max players, right? It's all of the above. You can't just judge them in a vacuum for their skill set like you would a wide receiver on a football team or a defensive end, right? There's certain positions in sports where the extracurricular and the personality doesn't really matter as much because they kind of play in a vacuum. Basketball, it's such a connected sport with chemistry. It all kind of matters, but especially when you're talking about a franchise caliber player. And so Towns, we've all called him soft for years. I don't know if it's soft. He's just a goof. And what that leads to, and the voice changing and kind of like trying to like be someone maybe he's not, is he's not a leader. So I don't know if I'd exactly call him soft. I've seen Towns try to be physical and try to be aggressive in big moments, right? I don't think he's scared of the moment, but I think at his core, he's not a leader and he's not a naturally physical player. He'd rather play on the perimeter and shoot the 3 ball, which is fine in a certain role, right? But again, his ability to stretch the floor is what sticks out to me most. And hey, offensively, he's as talented as it comes. Now, Embiid is probably better with his back to the basket. I don't know. I can't call it. But offensively, there's no real knock on him. I think it's his leadership and his defense that are his biggest weaknesses, right? He's far more durable than Embiid. I know he had the calf this year, but just historically speaking throughout his career, he plays all the time, right? But what I'd talk about personality-wise is, as goofy as he is, I think he's more malleable to different situations and fits. There's no doubt Embiid is an alpha. He's a leader, right? And that may not work if you bring him into a team. With Towns, I think he would fit right in as a number 2 or number 3 guy, personality-wise. And so he could fit in different spots with different personalities better, right? Towns, gets knocked for being soft and goofy. I think it could be a positive when you pair him with players that are good leaders, and he doesn't have to be the leader. And I think he'd be more willing to fall in line and do perhaps what you need him to do. It's going to be a little more dynamic a situation if you bring in Cat as opposed to Embiid, where I think you're going to have to kind of play how Embiid wants to play. Last but not least, DeAndre Ayton. What sticks out to me with Ayton is his physical attributes. When you talk about his strengths, right? He's got great hands. He's probably as quick as any 7-footer off the floor as you'll see, right? Can run the floor, and then he's stronger than you think. You wouldn't know it by the way he plays, but you watch him guarding Jokic, and he's kind of holding his ground against the biggest post bully in the league, right? In this era. And so his physical attributes are what stick out to me, but it's all in theory. It's all on paper, right? On paper, DeAndre Ayton is really an ideal modern big because he can switch out in theory, right? He can't get played off the floor in small ball. He can run the floor. He's quick. You don't have to slow your pace. And so when I say modern big, again, you don't have to yield to small ball against certain teams in theory with DeAndre Ayton. But his weakness to me is just his competitive spirit. And you saw the line, the motor, right? That's another way of saying competitive spirit, really, kind of, right? But it's like, do you really like basketball? And he's obviously the most likely of these three to be traded, which also means it'd probably cost you the least. And honestly, if you're the Warriors, he is the one of these three where you could continue to just play the same way. I don't think they'd have to alter anything, and he could play at the Warriors' pace. But the gamble would be you're betting on the dude, right? His character and his love of the game. And I think what we saw in Phoenix is a similar thing that you saw with Rudy Gobert in Utah with Donovan Mitchell and, Book and Paul, in the sense of, obviously they're different players. They're different players, right? Ayton is better offensively, much better hands, right? But you wouldn't really question Rudy's motor, would you? He's just goofy and not offensively inclined. But my point is, it's kind of a chicken or egg thing, right? Because both Ayton and Rudy are like, feed me, give me the ball, throw me the lobs, let me get touches. Right? And if you watch enough, they will, but then they're goofy or they're not physical enough with the ball in the paint. They're not assertive enough with it. And after a couple botched catches or soft attempts at the rim, you'll see a Booker or you saw Donovan Mitchell be like, dude, I ain't giving you the ball no more, bro. I don't believe that you truly want it or that you're going to be effective with it. And so again, it's kind of a chicken or egg thing because I've seen Paul and I've seen Book feed Ayton and Monty pat him on the back for years and try to push him forward. Hey, be that guy. But then that competitive spirit and motor kind of leads them to not being able to lean on it. So which way is it? So those are my thoughts on those three big men. To wrap it up and put a bow on it, obviously Joel would cost the most if you're a team looking to acquire him, Warrior fans, right? It'd be all the young guys. I already said that, right? But you can mess around in the trade checker and see that. I'm not going to propose deals. There's not too many different varieties of ways to get him. It'd be everything minus the core. You could keep the core, right? But it'd be a big commitment. His durability and lack of a clutch gene or lack of comfort in late game situations, I'd pass on Embiid. It doesn't appeal to me in the situation if you're the Warriors. And so not probably very realistic that they're going to move on from him anyway, right? Ayton, I think on paper, again, here we go with that term, makes the most sense the way the Warriors play. They could still play fast. And in theory, if they build his confidence and got him to compete every night, I think he would be the best fit for the Warriors. But I think that betting on Ayton's basketball character and competitiveness is not a bet that I'd want to make. And so I can't believe I'm saying this, but if I had to choose one of these three for the Warriors, it would be Towns. It would be Towns. As goofy as he is and as much fun as I've had poking fun at him over the years, his stretchability, right? Defensively, you can work with him. Again, I don't really have a problem with Towns' effort. Like, he tries, right? He's just goofy, and I think that he's not a lead dog. And so I think that would work for the Warriors, much just like with Wiggins. It's kind of ironically, right? Another Minnesota number 1 pick, right? But Wiggins is slotted so much better onto this Warriors team where he's like a third option type of guy, right? And so if they were to make a big splash and get a big man, I think it would be Towns, the one that I targeted out of these 3 number 1 picks. All right, let me know in the comments who you would prefer. Maybe not anybody. I know most of you are probably focused on more realistic deals surrounding a Jordan Poole or a Jonathan Kuminga. There's a ton of trades already being thrown out there as far as Jordan Poole, right? We know that that's kind of the centerpiece and focus for Warrior fans right now. And so at some point here soon, I will drop a video focused on Jordan Poole, and I'll take a look at all the deals that I've seen out there and grade them and maybe discuss the strengths and weaknesses and possibilities of those deals. As always, though, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.